Good morning, everyone, or depends on wherever you are on this globe. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for this nice introduction. I want to talk a bit about what software architects are responsible for. What are their roles? And I don't want you to teach you the roles. I want to talk about how other people perceive these roles and how we do this in teaching. So that's not in my job description. This is the title of my talk, and it has some scary parts, I think, but Halloween is coming up and we'll be fine with this, and there's also a lot of fun in this, so as Halloween is. So let's get over with the introduction. I want to keep it brief. As already said, I'm a freelance consultant. I'm mostly a trainer. I work a lot in training, and I'm really a tinkerer. I like to play with technology. I like to play with electronics and so on. And in my real business time, I'm mostly a member of the foundation level working group. So I have a lot to care about the curriculum, about the things we teach people and so on. And I recently became the head of the Train the Trainer working group. And this is also a bit what motivates my talk here. So why this talk? At first, we have those learning goals in the iSAQB curriculum. So our students, our training participants should understand their tasks and responsibilities. And of course, they should be able to explain their role. And when giving trainings, I really have a lot of discussions about it, a lot of questions from training participants coming from all different places. And so, how do we convey those things, their role, what they have to do, what they shouldn't do to the people? And furthermore, I used the last year to develop a foundation level slide set for international training, and had a great chance to work together with Gernot on writing a book. This really went together very well. It complemented each other. But during this time, I had a lot of discussions with reviewers of the slide deck, with working group members, and with fellow authors about this topic. So let's dive into this. So why is this topic so important? Of course, I don't need to tell you. If the roles and responsibilities are not understood by software architects, if they cannot explain them to others, your projects might be in trouble. And not only your projects fail, your immediate work might be in trouble. There also are strategic goals for your company that they can't meet. They can't develop the software any longer. They can't educate their people and so on. And out of this topic, a lot of conflicts with other stakeholders arise. Where are the boundaries of our responsibilities? What the limitations are there? What do we have expect from others? And so if we do not balance this well, a lot of bad things can happen. Here be dragons. So not only bad things to your company can happen, also to the people doing the job as a software architect. Their motivation drops, their job satisfactions might really go down the drain, and also workplace health, mental health, and last but not least, their performance. So we have to deal with this delineation of the role of software architects and their task. So what we want to do in the following slides, I want to go through with you what do our textbooks have to say about it, then do a reality check based on feedback from training participants, from other trainers, from colleagues, working group members, and let's talk a bit about the obvious deviations there might be. What can go wrong? Where doesn't it fit in with what we teach? And at the end of this talk, let's talk about how we can handle this. This will be a bit of a winding road sometimes, but we will get there eventually. So this slide you see now is basically a very, very condensed overview what our textbooks have to say on this matter. So we basically use two different kinds of books by Mahbouba Gabi and Arne Koschel and Stefan Rauch, and of course some books written by Gernot Starke, and we have this new book that prepares you for the exam for the English-speaking community. And if you look what we do teach in our textbooks, what we do in our curriculum about the roles and responsibilities of software architect, some things are quite obvious, aren't they? I don't know really. Of course, we need to analyze requirements and clarify requirements and talk about constraints, but there were a lot of discussions going on how detailed we do this, how we where does our responsibility stop? So other things are more obvious. There usually aren't any discussions about our core responsibilities about designing things, about doing architectural design, about selecting components, about dividing components, and all the stuff our training participants usually see in the core of their job. This is usually what they came for the training and what they focus on. So these things are more or less clearly said and clearly accepted. Also, evaluating architecture and design decisions. Yeah, of course, we have to do this. This is our job. This is our daily routine. And to be able to do this, of course, we have to help developers. We have to talk to other stakeholders. We have to make sure what we thought about here in this step in the design phase gets put into practice. So this is also clear, and also documenting things, making things persistent, making people stick to these things. There is no discussion about this. Then we have this little blue thing over here. We will come back to this in a minute. But basically, that's what we tell people what they have to care about. What are the common tasks they perform, and what is their job. So, but let's have a short look how we came up with this. What do the experts say? What do the people who are really in the know say about this? So, and one book I brought here with me is from one of the standards. I really like this very, very much. It's from 2012, and you might notice here on the slide that Bas, Clemens, and Kasman do a very interesting thing. They don't talk about the role. They don't talk about the role of the architect. They talk of activities that are involved creating a software architecture. They talk about the processes, not about people or roles carrying out these processes. And they really start with Obama, making a business case for the system. We have a lot of discussions about this. We have a lot of heated discussions with other trainers who say, oh, making a business case, that's not my job. I don't do business cases. We will come back to this in the reality check. So then there are a lot of things which are not really that surprising. Of course, architects, you have to understand architectural significant requirements to build an architecture. You have to know what you are doing. And of course, you have to design things and documenting and communicating and analyzing and evaluating things. These are no-brainers. These are no surprises. People really accept it, and yeah, that's what I expect of being a software architect. And yeah, let's do this. So we can talk about a bit about this, implementing and testing the system, but Bas and the others made it easy. They say this is an activity that we have to do for creating an architecture. We don't say really that the architect has to do this. He or she can delegate it. Of course, a bit of it has been done by architects, for instance, prototyping, testing things for themselves, for making good design decisions. So this becomes more or less clear in the books, and it really depends. So, and of course, this part Captain Obvious. So we have to ensure that people build what we intend them to build. So if we come to another book I'm very, very fond of, I really like this new book by Neil Ford and Mark Richards. And yeah, they start out with calling it a fool's errand of defining the role of the architect. So basically what they say, we don't want to talk about the role. We recommend focusing on the expectations of an architect, and they define some core expectations, what an architect should do, or what he or she should be like. And this sentence, before we come to the detailed parts, continues in their book with, irrespective of any given role, of any title, or any job description. So the role just goes out of the window. We don't talk about roles anymore. We talk about what people have to do, which is, in my opinion, a very sensible thing to do. And there also are things that are crystal clear. We have to do this. We have to make architecture decisions. We have to do the thing that we can't Google. And of course, we have to analyze them. And of course, keeping current with the latest trends is one of our things to stay in business. It's really not easy today for an architect to do this, but everyone who likes this job, who enjoys working as an architect, is a technology nerd, is an engineer, wants to find out what's new, what's going on. And of course, the other things are absolutely clear. There are no surprises here. And if I tell students in training that they have to do those, they will accept it. Oh. Then Neil and Mark talk about having business domain knowledge. I totally agree with this. This is one of the most important things. I have a lot of discussions about having business domain knowledge is, do we use this knowledge only to design things, to understand the requirements? Put we this knowledge to use to change the business domain? And this is a thing I experience in a lot of companies I work with, and in a lot of companies people in my trainings come from, and they say, of course, that's our daily bread. We help our customer to get his business processes right. But others say, oh, no, we totally do not do this. This is not our job. We have to know how the business domain works, but we don't change it. So, of course, there are some other things, interpersonal skills. Yes, definitely. You have to have those as an architect. And yeah, this doesn't come easy to some of us. There are some engineers out there who are very introverted, and but this is something people can work in, and this is something people can really get good in. So, but the last point, understand and navigate politics. Yeah, this is really a point here. I'm a nerd. I don't want to have to do anything with company politics and with all those hick and politicking that's going on. I really don't want to do this. But this is an important point we come later to. If you want to do your job well, you have to do this. So let's put, this is what we teach. This is what we discuss about. Let's put this to a reality check. I have got a lot of feedback from training participants regarding the roles and responsibilities. And what I did in preparation for this talk was to interview other trainers, industry professionals. And so what you see in the next few slides here is more or less 4 hours of interviews condensed into a few, very, very few slides. So, but let's start with the feedback. Feedback number 1. Oh, you talk about such a lot of different things I have to do. I totally didn't expect this. I don't think I can do this. Yeah, of course, people come with the expectations to our training that we teach them about patterns, about design principles, maybe about architecture documentation, development methods. And now we have in there politics, social skills, requirements, and a lot of other things. So, but this is not a big deal. We can tell the persons participating, oh, you will do fine. You don't have to do this all at once. You can totally cope with it. You grow into this role, and everything will be fine. So then another feedback I got was, quote, I was hired as a software architect. Then I worked as a product owner, basically. Yeah, but the company is still looking for an architect. Yeah, it seems like something has definitely gone wrong here in some place. So not on the person doing the architecting job, but on the other side. So yeah, but that's a problem definitely for the person doing this job. It's not in his or her job description to be a product owner. She wanted to become an architect. So what do we do now? So then something from a company, a small, young, about a few years into the business, but quite successful. Successfully, they we don't care about architect roles. We don't hire architects. When we hire people, we have no specialized role descriptions or something, except maybe for administrators or for people doing the paperwork. We hire everyone as a developer. That's what in their contract. And then we let people do their job. Some do some architecting, some do the architect's work, some become technical project managers and do a bit more of architecting, take architectural responsibility. And yeah, basically, people are perfectly fine with this. They work quite well. They are very successful in their job, and looks like it really works out for them. So then a bit of the opposite part of the spectrum. This is usually something I hear from people working in automotive, especially small contractors. They just get a list of requirements. They have to work with this list. They don't do the things that people in the previous company do. In this one, they don't optimize the business workflow of their customers or something like this. They just get their requirements. They have to get it done, and they do not have a lot of leeway to navigate those requirements or to negotiate. They just have to cope with them. So how is this about understanding the business domain, understanding requirements, and doing the optimizations against the requirements that some architects really like to do, and which really brings a lot of profit into our project? It completely goes out of the window. And yeah, this is from one very intense discussion I had, and I ever have again with this person, and I really like this person. He is a good sparring partner for discussing those things, and he has a background from coming from very, very large companies. We're talking about several thousand employees here, and no, I don't think it's my task to define requirements. Is it really our task? We take those requirements and refining requirements, analyzing business processes, analyzing what the customer needs or wants. This is the job of someone else. This should be done by requirements engineers. We have product owners for this. In larger companies, we have enterprise architects, we have business analysts. We just take their input and build an information and IT system with us. This is our job, and we just have to work on fulfilling those requirements. So, and it can even get worse. I got a feedback that people were reprimanded. They were giving training to some developers, and of course, when we teach our students to become architects, we tell them if your developers need support, give them the support they need. Tell them about new technologies or how to implement things, guide them, listen to them as well, what they come up with. And in this quote here, this was an absolute no-go. People got very, very angry about teaching developers. How dare you to tell my developers what to do? And that was, in this context, considered absolute outside the role of the architect. So, yeah, this can happen as well. And of course, there's the feedback. I don't have to do anything with the business case. I can say something about effort. I can say something about skills we need, but I do not do business cases. I cannot say anything about costs at all. This just doesn't work out for me. So on the other end of the spectrum, on the completely different end of the spectrum of responsibilities, there's the feedback, of course, structuring, documenting, and explicating the customer's processes is definitely our job. This is what we do. If the customer has bad business processes, we have garbage in, garbage out. We cannot put anything into an IT system that doesn't work in the first way. And by the way, sometimes the customer thinks he needs A, but really wants B, and to be successful, he needs C. We have to tell the customer that's our job. And so this is what we earn our money with. So there, you might have noticed that there are a lot of things going on that do not really fit well into our textbook description. So we tell people you have a very broad focus of things to do, and oh, no, that's not true. This just doesn't work for me. So unfortunately, I can't see your comments currently here for some reason. So if there are questions coming up during the talk, I would like to have the moderator and on this talk to put them in the chat for me so I can respond to them. So, but let's start to look about where we differ from our textbook descriptions. So, point one. This seems to be the case in some places that the company the architects work for just don't know what they really want or what they really need. They say, oh, yeah, we need some architect. Yeah, but we don't know what they do. So, but we will talk about this later about such companies. The other thing is architects usually tend to fill other roles. If they need some input for their work as an architect and don't get this input from the people who should be responsible for this, or there aren't just any people who do requirements engineering, who do not work as a product owner. This is what we have in small companies. They tend to fill those other roles. And this can work really fine. This can be no problem at all, but it can also lead to a lot of problems, and especially in larger companies. So this can lead to role conflict with other stakeholders who say, oh, you can't do this. This is not your job. This is my job. And don't tell me how I have to do my job here. So there are a lot of things going on that makes reality differ from what we describe as an optimal working environment in our textbooks. So, and those role conflicts really are the floor is lava. So you can really not only burn your fingers on it, you can really burn your career on it. So we have to talk about this somehow. But let's have a look when this happens or where this happens. And usually it depends. Some people are quite happy with the textbook descriptions. Others discuss a lot, and they have a point in many things there. And apparently it is very much related to the kind of company, the kind of working environment those people do do their architect job in. So the maturity of the company, is it a small one, is it a big one, is it like one of those big IT dinosaurs, or is it a small agile startup? What is the culture? And of course, the industry sector. So people working in automotive or security relevant companies who do a lot of dangerous stuff are very inclined to follow the rule book, who are very, very strict, who have strict procedures, so they have less of leeway in architectural decisions and in the things they do. So, but one thing we notice, it might be about the big companies. So let's shortly have a look into this. So, and I asked my interview partners, do you think this is a problem, that those problems usually arise in large companies? And say, not necessarily, but there is a pattern here. And I had one interview partner see, I come back to this question in a moment. I had one interview partner say, yeah, I like to work in large companies. They are a very, very happy place. So usually you have human resource departments. The people there provide clear job descriptions for people they hire. They provide clear qualification goals. And for instance, if they do a hiring round, they have externals assessors check applicants. For this they come up with selection criteria. So you very well may end up with well-defined roles. This is completely happy. This makes people happy, at least some who like well-defined roles. But yeah, you know what you should do, what you shouldn't do. There is a clear delineation. There are clear responsibilities. And of course, for some people like this, they like to work in such an environment. They have a clear career path. For others, it's not that well. It's highly institutionalized, highly tied to job title, job descriptions, and those bits of paper they put on your office door. But some people like it, some people don't. But for those who like it, large companies can be really, really nice. So, but it also can go terribly, terribly wrong. Not only in large companies, but there is a pattern here. What, for instance, can be the case is that the human resource department doesn't understand the profile. They can't put the right people in the right places because they just don't know what is required there. And there is also the pattern that companies with enterprise architects sometimes do not work that well for some reason, because they usually try to do some alignment on enterprise infrastructure or something like this. Some of them only work on the infrastructure part, not on the processes but if they have too much work to do or cannot focus on the things that are needed, they don't know what skills are required. They hire people who think might fit the place, might fit the role, but who do not really fit in. On the other hand, we have sometimes companies with no real development strategy for their workforce. So, and what can happen is, for instance, that developers are promoted just to the architect role and who are completely not ready for this job, who just like to be developers, who like to be a bit of architecting, but only a bit, but cannot fill the whole spectrum of this role. And there might be other reasons here that things go wrong. One thing I've seen more than once is that management of the company just doesn't know what software architecture is all about. They do not see. They are very cash flow driven. They do not recognize the software lifecycle. They do not value the long-term goals of software architecture, the things a software architect should care about. They think in terms of project, and they haven't stated their long-term goals. There's no strategy behind it. So this is a really difficult working environment for architects. So what come we up with? We come up with results that can sometimes fit the horror story on a title screen. So, for instance, architects may become bottlenecks. They just got promoted to the architect role, but don't have any experience in politics, any experience in management, can do the other tasks. And what do? They want to do something useful. They get into the details. They just can't let go of their development job. They do a lot of micromanagement, and they cannot fulfill those roles. This is one situation you more than once really encounter. So what the other thing is that people want do compliance. They just want to fit in the structures. So if it's not in my job descriptions, I don't do it. Or even worse, for some people, they are not allowed to, they see the problems that arise, they want to solve the problems, and they are not allowed to work on these problems. So you don't have this certificate or this accreditation. Yeah, you can't work on this. It's not your job. So what it leads to is that people get frustrated. They cannot adapt their role, really to the needs of the project. They know what has to be done, and they are not allowed to do this. So this can lead to another thing, that people start working around their role definition. They say, oh, I'm officially not allowed to do this, but I do it anyway because it needs to be done. It's my duty to do this. So they exceed their official scope of operations, and this inevitably leads to role conflicts. There are people who do not like if other ones step out of their boundary and do things which should be my job. Okay, I'm not doing this well, but it's my job. No one else should do this. So this is one thing that really can happen. So other things, incentive systems do not work anymore. People, I sometimes call those the Big Lebowski principles of architecting or developing. If it's easier to hack the incentive system than doing their job, then people hack the incentive system and don't do their job. This goes back to Joscha Bach, who discovered something similar for artificial intelligence systems. So, and one really, really bad thing that can happen is that this whole hierarchy thinking is a threat to career goals. People get discharged or laid off for doing the wrong things. People get burnout from things. They don't like their job. They have canceled their jobs in their mind. Some people get happy with this. This is something they can be satisfied with their job, but they are completely resignative. So, yeah, it's my job. I do this, and it's okay. But it's not a happy life. But the thing is, I talked to one person in my interview who told me, yeah, there were people who working against the official scope. They built a little island of functionality in the sea of chaos, and it was at first totally fine by management as long as it worked better than the other things around. But it's of course risky. When things fail, you get burned. So, and the thing here is the project would have failed anyway, even if the people would not have stepped out of their boundaries. It would just have failed in another way. So what this leads to is a lot of what we call politicking. So a lot of political stuff going on, bickering with people, which is something tech people I think they really don't like it. I don't like it, but it is out there anyway. And of course, kingdom building. People build their own kingdoms with their competences at the core and do not let anybody get in. And it becomes a very, very harsh working environment. So what can we do better? What works better? What really, this is one thing I asked people in my interviews, and they said, of course, do it at a small, agile startup way. We do not hand out responsibilities coupled just to job titles or hierarchies. So it's completely okay that there is architectural responsibility out there without a certificate or without dress medals or without explicit titles, as long as people know their job. You can be, it completely works. So the other thing is hire developers, let them grow into the role of an architect. So responsibility for architectural things will come to those who really care about things. So one called this that they have an inherent qualification hierarchy, something like a meritocracy, where people are valued for the things they do. And of course, this role also can be shared. There is not necessarily one guy or one girl doing the architecting. It can be distributed across the team. And if you want to know who's doing the architecting or who knows stuff, just ask how does this work? Or if you do an architecture evaluation, just look who comes up with contribution to the problems we are discussing. So, and of course, what is very well recommended is to have A, small cross-functional teams, and B, to build up product ownership around the team. So if the team is really responsible for this project as a product, then they care about the long-term goals, or they start to take responsibility. It becomes their baby. So the team is responsible. When I talk about this, of course, a question comes up, what about diffusion of responsibility? If everyone is responsible, no one is responsible. Yeah, at first it might sound that this happened this way, but look at Scrum. There is no architect role in Scrum. There is intentionally no architect role in Scrum, and it works anyway. People do architecting. Some trainers argue that we should define an architect role somewhere in Scrum. The Scrum people say, no, we don't do this. This is our intention. But anyway, point here is there is no official architect title. It works. Then, of course, if the team is responsible and the team does something that doesn't work, the team has to make it work. So the team is responsible for the decisions of the team, and so the team also has to take the brunt if it comes to fixing things they messed up with. And last but not least, it works especially good in flat hierarchies, in companies that do not have a lot of middle management. So what happens here is that management really directs working groups from very, very directly. So, and if a risky decision comes up, the management takes the responsibility. So they really start caring about the project. They are not that far away from the system they build like in bigger companies. So it really can work. Yeah, but my company does not work that way. What can I do? What options do I have? This is a question that often comes up in trainings. So, of course, there is something I call the Warren Buffett maneuver to change vessels. Warren Buffett once said, should you find yourself in a chronically leaking boat, energy devoted to changing vessels is likely to be more productive than energy devoted to patching leaks. Yeah, so find another job, become a coconut plucker. I'm prepared for this. I got my certificate here. So just kidding, we won't do this. This is this is the last way out. This is the atomic option. If you pull this option too often, then something else is wrong. But it may be a way out. So, but we want to have this job. We want to make it work. We like our job. What can we do? There is the Johnny Cash tactic. You can just walk the line. So find out, if you want to walk the line, you have to know what rules your environment operates by, and have to find out how you can accomplish what you want to accomplish in the existing environment. So this is not always an easy task, but I really can recommend two of my favorite books here. The Peter Principle, that explains how large organizations work. And if you are less satirically inclined and do not like the cynicism of the Peter Principle, one book I really can recommend is Giardini. Giardini is a must-read for IT nerds, for computer science guys, and just to know what makes people tick. This is a book you can take into your holiday. It's a great read. After that, you really have a better understanding of the world around you. So if you have this understanding, of course, you can work on changing things you do not like. So what you can also do is what I would call the Amelia Earhart strategy: try to hack the system, change the system. This is not always an option. You might not be in the position for this, but it's an option that's out there, and it depends on the environment you are in. I'm not really good at this stuff. I'm out of my waters here because we're talking about transformational changes. What I recommend my students in this case, have a look at this talk. Stefan Tilkoff has a very, very good talk about this. He's very knowledgeable. Gerrit Beiner does a lot of trainings about soft skills, about organizational development. So there are ways to take this into consideration. So, but we are back to step one. What about this business case thing? Of course, it depends. As always, it depends. One thing is what Bess and Clemens and Kasman mean is they do not see a business case thing just as something that has to do with market needs. So it has to do with future requirements, costs, the target market, time to target market. This is something an architect should be knowledgeable about, and he or she should at least be involved in the decisions here, or the business case might fail. The other thing, I talk to a lot of trainers, a lot of professionals. They say, of course, when I see that there's an interesting use case for my system, my company has not a business case on us, I have to let management know we want to make money with this. So this definitely is my job. So, and of course, you have to assume ethical and moral responsibility for the things you build. If your business case is evil, you have to decide yourself, what do you really want to build the system? So it really has an impact. Of course, there are other stakeholders to the business case, and it depends very much on your environment. So let me close this talk with how can we prepare people in training for all of this? The one thing is we have to clarify that the architect's role is very, very elastic. It can really differ from depending on your environment, the needs of your environment. Projects and employers come in all kinds of flavors, and we have to teach people the interdependencies between their role and the other roles and prepare them for role conflict. We can, for instance, do this with exercises. And of course, we should stop focusing on the whole role definition thing, focus on expectations, focus on what people have to do in their job. And of course, make it clear, as an architect, you should be ready to fill other roles if they are not there, if people do not work there, but when required and when appropriate. In some environments, this doesn't apply, this can't be done. In other environments, you have just to do this when you want to thrive as an architect. So, and what one of the trainers usually tells their people is, from now on, your job is in marketing and your job is in politics. You have just to cope with it. You are a politician and you have to sell yourself. You have to convince others of your ideas. So let's close this up with what the historical architects have to say about us. That let the architect be educated, skillful with a pencil, instructed in geometry, know much history, have followed the philosophers with attention, understand music, have some knowledge of medicine, know the opinion of the jurist, and be acquainted with astronomy and the theory of heavens. So to do your job, you have to have a broad spectrum of abilities and, of course, have to navigate politics to be able to apply them. So we're just in time now. I have to say a big thank you to a lot of people who contributed to this talk, who spent their time with me answering my questions. And now I'm here to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Hi, Alexander.
Hi,
Thank
Alison.
you for the session. Well, we have a few questions, and I
Yes.
want to revisit the first one that was asked that you might have already touched on a little bit. What can you recommend we can do better, define or change our role if need be?
What I can recommend is really, of course, really understand what is needed. So, and how the environment works you are in. If you are in a big company, a very constrained environment, your problems are all politics. So you can't solve political problems with technology. And of course, as an architect, it's not my responsibility to do organizational development in large companies. So I have to look. I have to be the wise man or wise woman that knows when to act and when just to endure things, when it's really worth changing things and when it's possible to change things. So we have to make clear what our role is to the other stakeholders. We have to make clear what the importance is. And sometimes you have to tell people after the return of interest they're missing out. So of course, there is this quote, do you think architecture is too expensive? You haven't tried yet bad architecture. So we have to make clear what the benefit of our role is and then see if our environment really appreciates this or if it doesn't. And then we have to work from this point on.
All right. Let's go on to our next question. Have you seen an individual architect successfully change the perception of their role, impact the overall company or division bottom up? Is this one of the use cases for those social skills or politics?
Have I really seen this? The thing is, this usually isn't a big bang event. So I see the people in my trainings for a short amount of time. Some come back later and say, oh, yes, it has really helped to change our working environment. I really cannot evaluate the degree of the impact. Sometimes I come back later to this company if they do a training 2 or 3 years later, and they say, yeah, people started by changing small things. It works better now. That a lone architect overthrows a big company. Well, I think this rarely happens. So it's a lot of small steps to make the company better. So, but I talked to others during the interviews, and they said, of course, there was this one architect who stepped out of line during interviews, doing assessing requirements with the customer. And now this person is really valued for them because they told the customer, your requirements are really bad. We have built this in another way, and it has worked, and the customer has listened to him. So he is very well appreciated. But this is like in the military. You get command. You get command by order to command, or you take command. And taking command is always the risky options. If it goes well, then you're fine. If it doesn't go well, out you go.
Absolutely understood. All right, our final question is, do exact job descriptions hinder cooperation in teams?
It may be very well the case. Not as a general rule, but in my opinion, it depends on how flexible you handle this. You can, if you treat the job description as guidance, as some directions of what you should do, and this is at first a good thing. You cannot be happy if you do not know your goal. So to use it as guidance, it really encourages cooperations in team. If you use your job description as an excuse, as a middle, as a mean of politicking, as just working to your advantage or putting on roadblocks to other people, it really can kill a team off. So it can cut both ways.
Great. Well, thank you. I think the questions were absolutely insightful and your answers equally so. Alexander, I'd love to thank you one last time for joining us today. I enjoyed your session. I'm sure others did as well. And I hope we get to see you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you to all the listeners. Thank you for your time. I hope it was well spent for you. And soon I hope to see you, some of you at least, in person. So